Hi, everyone. Sarah and Teresa back. Hi, Teresa.
Hi, Sarah.
Um, we received a question, and actually, this is a situation that comes up often. And so we wanted to take a moment to answer it together in exploration, because this is certainly a situation that other people will go through, may go through, have gone through. And that is, and here's the question.
Drum roll.
You ready?
Do it.
No. My so the situation is the company is going through a merger and acquisition, an acquisition. So they're being purchased and struggling with how do we manage team morale by the company that is being bought out by, saying a really common example, a larger company, right? So we see this a lot where it's a smaller company. There's something really beautiful about the culture. It's very familiar. It's very consistent. And then a larger company comes in, purchases them, and it's a long process as they're navigating all the, just all of it. And so we wanted to talk about that.
Yeah.
That's the question, Teresa.
That's a good question. It's a wonderful question.
So let's start
Yeah.
with maybe talking about some common patterns of traps that we see organizations fall into when there is a substantial change. And I'll start. One is there is a tendency to want to smooth over the discomfort by doing things like having a pizza party, bringing in lunch, and we're just going to keep throwing these little good things.
Yeah.
And not that there's anything wrong with that.
No.
Or that there can't be value in that when you're navigating a stressful time. However, if we're talking about a change that's going to fundamentally shift perhaps my identity, the work that I do, what I get paid, the benefits I have, the comfort that I've gained, right? If it is creating a significant perception or reality of loss, the pizza party isn't going to heal that wound. And so we have to be careful that we aren't just putting band-aids on what really needs to be much more vulnerable and honest and open conversations. That's one that's coming up for me. What about you?
Yeah, the first thing that came to mind is loss. And I feel like when we're working with teams and we start talking about the experience of loss, there's always a, you can literally hear that, in the group. And the new team, and I feel like we've seen this a lot lately, often is very welcoming, very warm, is so excited about this, can't wait to meet their new buddies, so to speak. And so then they can become frustrated when this group is experiencing loss because they're taking it personally, but it's not. And you think about common losses we've seen, and you chime in here too, Sarah, but maybe before I had almost total control over an area, now I don't. I knew how every part of our business functioned and the names of every person in it, whether that was 5 people, 50 people, 150 people, whatever. Now I don't. I had one recently. I don't remember what the person's actual name is, but we'll say something like Amber. I was the only Amber before. Now there are 15 Ambers. So like I've lost my uniqueness, or someone said Amber said, and everyone knew who Amber was, so loss of understanding the procedures. This was a known thing, now we're unknown, even if we're kind of positive about it in the long run. What other ones have you seen? I'm replaying some classics that we've heard from clients.
I mean, and sometimes it's like a loss of simplicity in the process, right? It's not uncommon that if we're a smaller company, it may be a little bit of the Wild West in our processes. And so there's not as much maybe rigor, or there may be more hoops we have to go through because larger companies just inherently have larger systems in order to manage it. And there could also be other losses. Like I'm thinking about when I went through a situation where we were, I don't even know how you would describe what happened. We were sold off. We were outsourced. And one of the things that made this company that I worked with tolerable, in addition to the people, were the benefits. And day one, when they were announcing, we're moving to this new company, we're going to become a part of this, like this department's becoming part of this, there's lots of layers of losses. Like, I'm not going to be coworkers with these other people. Now they're going to be clients and I'm a vendor to them. And now that changes that relationship. But then it was, everyone starts asking, how many days of PTO do we have? And they did not think through the fact that PTO was going to get cut in half, and length of tenure, right? Like the length of tenure, for every however long, right? You got more weeks, and some people got up to, I think, 6 or 7 weeks. So a substantial amount of time off. And everyone was getting, and there was just huge loss when it came to that. A couple of things that we have to keep in mind. Particularly, so we'll talk to the leaders. You have likely had way more time to get familiar and used to this change than your team members have. You have probably been a part of meetings. You have probably had some heads up, likely part of some of the conversations. And so you have just simply had more time to get used to it, and have maybe gone through your own grieving process, maybe you've just shifted into that kind of parent mode or that manager mode of, okay, how do I take care of other people? And so you're not, maybe with your own feelings and own situations. You likely had some influence perhaps over it. And so you have to remember that just because it's not a loss to you doesn't mean it's not a loss to someone else. And to check that. That's definitely a real common trap we see people fall into is, we've been talking about this for a month or 2 months, and they should like suck it up and get over it. And it's like, well, how long have you been working on this merger? 2 years? Okay. So you've had 2 years to get used to this idea, and we're only talking 2 months. Any other traps or patterns that you want to call out, Teresa?
I think this hooks right on to what you were sharing, but in some cases, drastically underestimating the amount of time it will take everyone to adjust. I feel like there's this idea that like, well, we'll move in Monday and by Friday we'll high five on the way out the door. Whatever amount of time you think, you probably need to double it. I mean, it takes
triple it.
I mean, yes.
Especially now, like maybe pre-pandemic was like, double the like navigating uncertainty and complexity. And now it's like, I don't know. It'll happen
Triple
when
it
it happens.
And then be pleasantly surprised if it's 2 weeks less than that. That's kind of where it takes humans a while. That's normal. That's part of the process. I think some of the things you were talking about, whether it's I have a loving relationship with pizza parties, right? But so like those types of things are fine. They're going to help ease the way if other things are going right. It's just going to take that time. And so trying to speed it along, or thinking that those, happy little bag of Hershey's Kisses in your cube or whatever are the solution. It's not the solution. But I think that's the biggest thing we've seen is then the frustration of, why isn't everyone there yet? Why is this taking so long? And then that starts to erode in a different way. Because then the acquiring group or the larger group is getting annoyed, which doesn't make the other group think, oh, wow, they're right. We should really hurry up and deal with these feelings we have and get on board. It does the opposite. It pushes them further back to their corner. So I think, yes, triple the amount of time that you think it will take.
It's just to highlight something that you said is, the perhaps the party that is acquiring could get frustrated. the leaders within the company that's being acquired can get frustrated, and then team members can be frustrated because they're like, you're not listening to us, you aren't hearing me, so some things will just take time. It'll take time to see how things play out. It'll take time to see, is this new company someone I can trust? Or my new leader someone I can trust? Like, some of that you can't speed up. I mean, you can help it. You can help not make it worse.
Right.
By effectively communicating in lots of different ways, and not just an email. By as best as possible finding ways to connect with people one-to-one. So if you are a leader and you're sitting here going, man, morale is really low, do a check-in, do a one-to-one check-in and go, hey, how are you feeling about it all? Where are you at? Honoring the losses, understanding that, not trying to, don't come in as Pollyanna. That's something, that's a trap that can become unintentionally dismissive, is we come in and we go, I mean, I know, I hear all of that, but the good thing is this and this and this are going to happen. And the person's like, but you didn't hear me. And so, so some really specific things you can try is some one-on-one conversations. Just where are people at? What would be helpful? Like, what information would be valuable for them? What maybe are they struggling with, and how can you work through that struggle together? If there are things that they're just unsure about, right? Like, helping them navigate, either gathering information to feel more secure with it, or even just honoring the fact that it's going to take time. And the other thing I was thinking of is, if you have a perspective that is different, that doesn't mean, that might be a helpful perspective, it doesn't mean you can or shouldn't share it. I'm a fan of, if someone is struggling with something, asking them, would it be helpful to hear how you're feeling about it? It gives them choice. It lets them, decide, I want to hear this perspective, or maybe I'm just not ready to receive it. So, we are working with a leadership team that is going, another company that will be going through a buyout, and and the CEO has had 18 months to look at all the scenarios and possible, and it's really is the best case scenario, but it could be easy for people to see, like, we couldn't have gotten a better deal, or whatever the case might be. And it's just, part of that is, hey, would it be helpful for me to share how I'm feeling about it? Because this is a journey I've taken. And sometimes just that invitation, we kind of call it, don't prescribe a perspective, but invite a perspective, is one way that you can help people along.
Something that came up for me as you were saying that is, also when you're in the position of the company that did the acquiring, don't underestimate the value of reiterating, we're so glad we're together now, and we know we will find a path forward on these things that are causing us some hiccups. So, right, like continually setting the tone that you're glad this happened, you believe you can find solutions together, it will take time, all of that, because and it depends on the group a little bit too. But I'm thinking of one team. This was the leadership team of a group who had been acquired and had done the acquiring, and they found out they had a competing commitment. They had kind of a chronic rub, and that was, the company that was purchased, just in their group, had this belief that you earn trust. Trust isn't, you don't have it by default, you have to earn it from me. And so ready, set, go. But the other company had a culture that was much more, I trust you, I'll trust you till you lose it, we'll be talking about it if we're struggling with trust. And you can see how those two perspectives presented really differently when the group welcoming them is saying, all right, come in, we trust you, let's do this. And this group's like, oh, that's not part of our the way of we've operated for however many years. So I think too, getting on the balcony and observing for those things, bringing them forward. Like, I've heard some folks from this group say X, and I've heard folks from this group say Y. How are those things showing up and rubbing every day?
Yeah.
And not being afraid, not avoiding it, because I think that was a beautiful moment for that group when they saw, oh, we have two different ways of thinking about how trust starts or continues. That was an aha for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of those competing commitments aren't going to be easily solved. There's not a solution. There's just an exploration and experimentation of figuring things out. So just being able to surface those, right? To surface the differences, to say, here's what I'm struggling with, or here's what I'm, like worried about, or here's, like where I see that we're different and I'm trying to navigate that. That just the act of being able to surface those is powerful, and because we're shining a light on something that maybe we've been avoiding, or hopefully have prevented an elephant from creeping into the room to begin with, right? Yeah, the other thing is just a whole lot of grace. I mean, there will come points where it becomes clear that, okay, we've been in resistance a really long time. And now we need to, it probably isn't as soon as you would want it as a leader.
Sure.
For sure. And at that point, then you may have to have some conversations with people of, we've been in this situation for 6 months now, or a year. And like, this is the reality of where we're at. And if that isn't a fit for you anymore, then maybe we need to look at something different. I mean, there does come a point where sometimes we have to have those conversations. But often that's a pattern too. We see people as they want to jump to that instead of, and again, honoring the human complexity, that the resistance to change, or the resistance, again, the loss is normal, is human. And, and we all go through that curve where we dip down and we struggle and we're trying to make meaning. And, and eventually most people will come out of it when they have support, when they feel honored, when they feel like they can talk about it, when communication and resources are clear and appreciation is there that can help us navigate out of it more quickly. But if we're not having, and I'm just thinking out loud, like, it's not that every meeting needs to be like, where's everyone, because what we focus on grows too. So we don't want to necessarily, just constantly focus on the pain, but just making sure we're doing touch base. It's just, where are you at? What do you feel good about that maybe wasn't clear a month ago? When you think about the future, what are concerns that you have, but also what are you excited about, right? Sometimes we have to open up the blinders, if you will, so that we can see more of the picture in front of us. And just giving some grace, that extra love, free donuts, all of that. It's not, it's not bad.
It's pro donut. I know we're both very
we're very pro donut. It just can't be the only.
Yeah.
Because you're not getting to the root of what somebody actually needs. And when someone is struggling with a situation, when they're struggling with a relationship, it's because they have a need that's not being met, right? There's some kind of loss they're experiencing, some kind of need that's not being met. And how do we have that conversation?
Beautifully said.
And that's our thoughts on that. If you have, I don't know. I mean, we know that we have an incredible audience that is wise. So if there's additional things that you find help, share, send us an email at hello@sarahnoelwilson.com, and we can include it on a future newsletter or in our social media. If you have a question, if there's something that you're curious and you want Teresa and I to chew on, or other people on the team to come on, whether it's, maybe it's a specific personnel issue, maybe it's a leadership challenge that you're facing, shoot it our way and then we'll explore it together. And if there are things we said that you disagree with, we also want to hear that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's how we grow and expand too, is to hear different perspectives. So with that, Teresa, have a lovely rest of your day.
Same to you. Thanks.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.